I can't help it. Like everything that I look at on social media in regards to the National Hockey League, everything that I find interesting happens to have some sort of a Vancouver angle attached to it. That is true with the New York Rangers. It's why we've been making videos about what's been going on over there. Again, JT Miller and his guys, they can bounce back today. They're playing Buffalo, but if they don't, and if they continue playing poorly like they did 2 days ago against Artur Shelov's Pittsburgh Penguins, then we're just going to get even more concerned as to what the next, 5-6 years of JT Miller's contract with New York is going to look like. Did I mention he's the captain of the team? But we could also talk about the Philadelphia Flyers and the head coach over there. Recent Vancouver Canucks head coach who walked out on the team. Walk it like I Rick Tocchet, baby. It's talk time. And believe me, we could make a video about the Philadelphia Flyers and the entire trade situation going on over there. Turns out the Flyers are looking for a defenseman because Rick Tocchet, realizing that he doesn't have Quinn Hughes to back up everything it is on the blue line, it's kind of making things a little bit more difficult to work with. But instead of focusing on the Philadelphia team that Tocchet is now on, let's get some final nails in the coffin as to Rick Tocchet's Vancouver tenure, shall we? Before we continue, though, I just wanted to say, I am definitely not doing myself any favors for giving anybody a proper send-off or a respectful goodbye. I might just be the biggest Vancouver Canucks homer and the biggest hater on the planet. But either way, what I wanted to do was refer to Jim Rutherford. Because yesterday, Rutherford, the Vancouver Canucks president of hockey operations, had himself an interview on Sportsnet 650 with Dan Riccio and Satyar Shah. This was a very interesting announcement that was just kind of like out of nowhere. I mean, a lot of Canucks fans were notified that Rutherford would be on Sportsnet 650 to answer some questions, and I think the biggest response was, hey, wait a minute, please, Rutherford, don't go out there and poke the bear anymore. Please stop talking about Quinn Hughes. And to be fair, he does go out there and speak a little bit about Quinn Hughes. And quite frankly, it's fairly positive. Now, here's the thing. We could go out there and cite the entire audio interview and go over every single point like we have done for radio hits and segments in the past, but I wanted to focus more so on the Rick Tocchet front. Because probably for the first time in over a year, it seems like Jim Rutherford has actually told the truth about Rick Tocchet and the way things were when he was the head coach with Elias Pettersson. Let's open things up with a tweet posted by Taj. This is what Satyar Shah said on the program on Canucks Central about Rutherford and Tocchet. I'm not sure that these two always saw eye to eye on Elias Pettersson, whether it was the extension or his usage. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, Vancouver Canucks management gave Elias Pettersson the extension that he rightfully deserved up to that point. You gotta remember, when Pettersson signed the extension, it was February 2024. And at that point in the season, 23-24, Pettersson was one of the top scoring players in the league. Him, Miller, and Hughes were all 1, 2, 3 at the NHL's point production totals at some point in October. The Canucks had a really good start that year, and Pettersson was productive. So when you think about Petey at that point, you think about him getting older and getting better. He already had a 100-point season under his belt at that time. It's like, all right, well, 11.6. Yeah, fine. Give it to him. But now Satyar Shah's going out there and saying that he doesn't know if Canucks management and the Canucks coaching staff always saw eye to eye on Pettersson. Now, let's head over onto Canucks News Summaries. Big shout out to Canucks News Summaries. They're a fantastic Twitter account. They've been doing fantastic work for over a year, chronicling and summarizing Vancouver Canucks related audio hits. And they summarized the Jim Rutherford interview on 650. It's long. We're not going to dive into everything. We're not even going to dive into like 25% of it, maybe like 10%. Because there's an entire segment that Rutherford has talking about Elias Pettersson. These are the notes. Pettersson, according to Rutherford, is in a totally different place than he was a year ago. He's done everything he can to prepare for the season, and he did everything he was asked and advised to do. He's a different guy mentally. More relaxed, and someone you can talk to now. Adam Foote is comfortable using him in all situations, and Pettersson is looking forward to that challenge. Rutherford also points out that Pettersson has been a responsible two-way player in the past, but, for some reason, hasn't been used that way over the last couple of years. Now, it's really interesting how Rutherford straight up says that Pettersson is a guy that you can talk to now. More relaxed, more laid back, he's feeling better about just everything, it seems, and Adam Foote is going to be willing to use this guy everywhere, despite the fact that Pettersson wasn't really used in a two-way role the last couple of years. Now, why do we bring this up? Well, let's go out there and see what Sapster had to say about the entire thing. Sap, by the way, loving what Sap has been doing on Twitter the past few years here. The last point is extremely irritating to read. Hopefully, Adam Foote entrusts Pettersson more than Rick Tocchet did. And that works hand in hand with what Satyr Shah was saying as to whether or not Vancouver management and Rick Tocchet mentally agreed on what Elias Pettersson was. Here's a take from Sapster responding to that tweet. If Rick Tocchet had an issue with Pettersson getting extended while he was in the middle of an 18-month stretch of being the 7th highest producing player in the NHL with superb defensive numbers in his career, then I don't know, man. Doesn't make any sense to me. And you gotta remember, this is coming from the coach that said that he wanted to reprogram the way that Elias Pettersson thinks about the game of hockey. It is quite the intriguing thought to dive into. Whether or not Rick Tocchet was really the right coach in any respect for Elias Pettersson. And it's funny because there were productive times that Pettersson had as a player under Rick Tocchet. His 100-point campaign had Rick Tocchet as the head coach in the second part of it. I mean, Boudreau was there, Kuzmenko, etc., lots of points, but then Boudreau got the can. Tocchet came in, and Pettersson finished off the year with a 100-point campaign. Nice. Then the next season rolls around, and Pettersson still produces, with Hughes, with Miller. But now we're hearing a year later that, yeah, Pettersson wasn't really used in the best defensive spots. There may not have been that same idea as to what value this player brought, and Satyr Shah says that maybe Canucks management and coaching did not agree on Pettersson's contract. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like this was the only factor that had slowed Pettersson down, because obviously, we've been making these videos about JT Miller. That situation definitely was bad too. But now it's starting to really feel like Rick Tocchet just was not the right coach for this Elias Pettersson. Absolutely not. Bruce Boudreau had the very good breakdown on TSN Overdrive earlier this year as to what kind of coaching makes these Vancouver Canucks players click and what kind of coaching Pettersson responds to versus the kind of coaching that JT Miller responds to. And it's like totally opposite sides of the spectrum. So for Vancouver to be in a spot where the environment wasn't working for Pettersson because he had this player breathing down his neck every time he made a mistake, calling him names and calling him things that shall not be repeated, allegedly, and a coaching staff that didn't back him up in the ways that you probably would hope to. You saw the comments that Tocchet made in the media, oh, Pettersson's got to do this, he's got to stick to a routine, he's got to become better, he's got to reprogram the way that he thinks. Meanwhile, Adam Foote, he starts out, he gets hired, and he's like, yeah, I just talked to Petey. I believe in him. He'll be good. Like, you can call me out if I'm wrong here, but it feels like Rick Tocchet never did any of that, and that's, by all accounts, the stuff that Pettersson needs the most. So, is this it? This is it, right? This is the quote-unquote, the truth about Elias Pettersson and Rick Tocchet. The problems that never really came across as problems at the beginning, but inevitably are starting to form narrative points that we can hook onto and say, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best way for Elias Pettersson to continue his development. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button's down there for you as well. Comments help out with the algorithm, so get involved in the conversation. I'd really appreciate that. Let me know, how do you feel about this Elias Pettersson update and what Rutherford said about the way he was used? Is this the truth about Elias Pettersson? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.